Honorable Associate Professor IR Dr. Nohana binti Arsad and Dr. Iskandar bin Yahya, Councillors of IEEE UKM Student Branch, TS Dr. Muhammad Nazim Mukhtar, Councillor of IEEE UPM Student Branch, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, I would like to welcome you all to this virtual industry career talk, self-development and preparation for career in the AI era. My name is Muhammad Rafi'i Shamuddin and I am the moderator for today's session. Before the presentation begins, let me explain how you can talk to us during this session. If you have any questions during the presentation, just write them in the meeting chat. We will have a Q&A session at the end of the presentation to answer your questions. Alternatively, you are also allowed to unmute your mic to ask questions during the Q&A session. Now, I would like to introduce this presenter. He is Professor IR Dr. Yu Hong Tat. Prof. IR Dr. Yu Hong Tat is currently the President of University Tunku Abdul Rahman. He is also the Senior Professor of Lee Kong Chian Faculty of Engineering and Science. Professor Yu Hong Tat obtained his Bachelor of Engineering First Class Honours degree in Electrical Engineering from University of Malaya, Malaysia, Masters of Science degree in Electrical Engineering and Computer Science from MIT, USA, and PhD degree from Multimedia University, Malaysia. He had worked before in Motorola Penang, Intel Penang, MIT's Research Laboratory for Electronics, University of Malaya, and Multimedia University, MMU, where his last position held in MMU was Vice President in Academic. He was also the recipient of a number of awards, including the Young Scientist Award of URSI, International Union of Radio Science in 1996, the Outstanding Young Malaysian Award 2005 for Academic Leadership and Accomplishment, and the Torres Science and Technology Award by Malaysian Torres Science Foundation in 2011. All right, without any further ado, I would like to welcome the presenter, Prof. Yu. The floor is yours.
Thank you. Thank you to our MC Rafiq, and also to all the fellow advisors and academics of IEEE UKM student branch, and also others. To the students, very good evening to every one of you. So I also like to thank all of you for attending these presentations. Okay, so without further ado, let us actually start with this one. So the title given to me is Self-Development and Preparation for Career in the AI Era. Next slide, please. Okay, if we look at technology revolutions, if you look at the previous revolutions, such as agricultural revolution, industrial revolutions, of course, it has actually advanced technologies and all that, but it is what we call physical based. That means that it is based on the physical law, and if you want to come up with a product, you actually have the physical product that you want to sell and all that. But in the digital world, the product itself is digital. Okay, so it's no longer constrained by these physical laws and all that. So as long as there's somebody that who can imagine, in the digital world, people can construct many things that human mind can think about. Okay, and you can have new products based on this one. So it has actually opened up a totally new area of actually services and products. That's why it has actually brought a lot of actually innovations and applications to the human world. Next slide. Now, if we look at the evolution economy, this is actually based on a book written by Professor Schwab, written by Professor Lester Turow from MIT. Basically, he actually divided the evolution economy into different stages. Now, during the agriculture, as you can see in the first row, agricultural revolutions, the driving power is labor. Okay, and then if you have own land, then actually you'll be rich, because and then during that time human resource required will be actually slave and labor workers. Okay, during the first industrial revolution, because of inventions of steam engine, okay, you need a lot of coal, natural mineral to actually support this kind of economy. And because factories were set up, and you need more blue collar workers to actually work in the factory. And if you compare the knowledge that the blue collar worker need to actually possess, it will be higher than the labor worker in previous agricultural revolution. But during the second industrial revolution, because of the electrical engine, and because electricities and all that, the resources for creating wealth will be the petroleum and energy source that can drive automations in the factories and all that. And with more automation and with more business, with national economy booming and all that, then you need more white collar worker to actually handle all the paperwork, administrative works, and all those kind of things. Then in terms of the knowledge they need to actually acquire, you'll be at higher, I mean, more knowledge that they need to do, they need to actually possess to actually perform the work. And during the third industrial revolutions, because of information engine, I mean, by talking about global economy, and knowledge is the power, knowledge is the wealth. Okay, so we need a lot of knowledge worker. So if you can see from here, from the evolution in economy, from one revolution to another revolution, there's always actually an intensification of knowledge content that we need to learn, we need to actually possess and all that. So the same thing for the fourth industrial revolution, you expect that the knowledge worker will be able to actually analyze knowledge, analyze the informations provided or a source, need to actually know how to learn new knowledge, and also need to know how to create new knowledge as well. So that is why there's these intensifications of the knowledge content. Next slide. So towards the knowledge economy, as you can see over here, okay, now we are all in this IEEE societies and all that. We know data is actually the basic basic figures and all that. But by strings of data, you actually tell us some information. If you possess different pieces of information, then you have a knowledge of a certain aspect of the field and all that. But if you have intelligence, then you know how to analyze the knowledge, how to apply the knowledge, how to create new knowledge. And more importantly, if you have the wisdom, you know how to decide what is right, what is wrong. So there is this level of learning. I say that data hierarchy or level of learning that we need to know. And as you can see on the left hand side, with more automation and more AI work, the AI, the machine will be able to actually do most of the work at the bottom. So in order for human being to continue to perform, we have to actually upgrade ourselves to actually focus more on a higher level, such as intelligence and also wisdom and all that. And we talk about wisdom, then you will realize that the importance of moral and ethical education is important, because you tell you that a person who possesses the knowledge, for example, IT skill, if he does it wrongly, apply it wrongly, it may bring harm as well. So wisdom to know what is right, what is wrong is important in this sense. Next slide. And for the fourth industrial revolution, as I mentioned just now, definitely we need knowledge worker who will be able to actually learn new knowledge, create new knowledge, and also solve the problems and all that. But in addition to this one, these knowledge workers, we believe that they need to have this growth mindset. Growth mindset is a mindset where they are willing to actually learn new things, face the challenges, and overcome the problems. Okay. And the other aspect of it will be, besides growth mindset, is actually empathy. Because in future, if the world is actually serviced by many artificial intelligence driven algorithm machines and all that, that may actually lose this human touch. Okay, so in order to provide a better services and better product, then for knowledge worker with empathy, will be able to know what other people's feelings, what the customer want, what the industry, what the society want, and they will be able to come up with a product which is actually more useful or actually liked by many people. Okay, so the fourth industrial revolution, we think that this is the time we need knowledge workers with growth mindset and empathy. Next slide. The growth mindset was first proposed by Professor Carol Dweck of Stanford University. She said that there may have people with fixed mindset. People with fixed mindset will always think that okay, if they are intelligent, they are always intelligent. If they actually and they expect that the environment should be always status quo, everything is fixed. If they do well in the schools, then they will continue to do well in the work. But a person with a growth mindset never underestimate his own potential. They know that intelligence can be developed as long as you want to learn new things. And the desire to learn, to actually embrace challenges and willing to overcome all the challenges, this will be the persons who have growth mindset. Because you never know what will actually happen in the next few years or next 10 years, but any new technology coming out, any innovative products will be out and all that. So people with growth mindsets, they are not contented with what they have learned in the university. They are willing to learn new things. And because they are ability to learn new things, they can actually solve the new challenging problem, and they will be actually more needed by the industry. Next slide. The other thing I would like to share with you is actually traditionally we like to think that education is like, in the factory, it's an industrial manufacturing process. I have this input, and then I with these academic processes and will produce this output. But as you all know, the input it is very difficult to control in terms of what kind of input we have, because we actually bring in students from different backgrounds. Okay, then in during the whole academic process, they are not receiving only the standard way of teaching, because they have the time now to actually explore in the internet. They mix with different groups of friends. They participate in different groups of societies and clubs and all that. So the process is more like a organic farming, meaning that in the education, is actually the universities or the institution will provide the environment, okay, that will nurture so that the talents of every individual, so every one of them can actually show their full potential, and at the same time, each one of them will help each other. Okay, it's like in a farm. Okay, so they can grow better, and with the support of each other, from the professors and lecturers from the universities, and then from the support from friends, together they can actually make it better. Okay, so this is what we call the concept of organic farming. Okay, the learning is actually dynamic. Next. Okay, so in the great achievements of 20th century that changed the world, this one was actually selected by US, the National Academy of Engineering, in year 2000. Okay, if you look at all this one, electrifications, automobile, airplane, water supply, electronics, and all these things, this has totally changed the human life, the style, our lifestyles, and all that. Okay, so we can imagine that this year, this century, there will be more innovation coming out, and that will also change our life now and also in future. Next slide. This is because of this convergence of technologies, because technologies are not moving forward on its own, because the growth, for example, the development in the information technology area will help those people who do bioengineering, will help those people who do for example, nanotechnology, because now they are able to use the high resolution of vision machine to see the nanostructures and all that. So the nanotechnology will improve further, and vice versa. Okay, so they are actually helping each other to grow faster. So that's what we call the convergence of technology. You bring this exponential convergence, and we can expect that the technology will advance faster and faster. Next slide. And the challenge of AI and robots actually is true, is real. Okay. For example, we may say, oh, we have not seen a really a humanoid or artificial intelligent robots and all that. But just imagine, okay, if you go to this Boston Dynamics website or YouTube channel, you can see that their robots are actually working like human being, running, jumping like human being and all that. Okay. Now, if today actually standing next to me is actually the best artificial intelligence robot in the world. Okay. So if it is the best in the world, okay, if I need to produce another 10,000 set of them or 100,000 set of them, okay, what I need is actually just the funding and the factories and all that to manufacture them. And very quickly, all over the world, you have the best AI robots in the world. Okay, so that means that the impact can come very fast. Okay, whereas to educate a scientist or an engineer, you need many years to nurture them and all that. Okay, so you can see that that will be the challenges of AI and robots lah, in that sense. And nowadays, sometimes people like to say that we may be living in the era where we are considered as hackable human. What do you mean by hackable human? Meaning that because every day we go online into the internet, into our Facebook, into the our YouTube channels and those kind of things, and the AI will learn what we like to see, and then they keep pushing those we like to see, and slowly maybe they actually may actually push to us some of the information that will actually influence us uh, in our decision and influence our habit or influence our preference and all that. Okay, so that is actually also this challenge that more and more people may be okay influenced by even using social media because of this AI algorithm behind that. Next slide. Okay, Professor Max Tegmark of MIT, he once actually mentioned that in fact in terms of evolution of life, there are actually this what he called it the life 1.0, 2.0, and 3.0. What does it mean? Life 1.0 is like evolution with gene transfer, meaning that from one generation to generation, the characteristic of the ancestor is passed through the descendants actually through this gene transfer. And of course, during the gene transfer, there may be mutation, okay, and there may be adaptation, okay. So for this is the life 1.0. But for human being, which is considered as life 2.0, they also use languages, use education, so that they can do the transfer of knowledge through education during the lifetime of human being. Okay, because the life 1.0, they have to pass the information or the knowledge through to the next generation. Whereas this one, even when they are alive, they already can actually use this one education to transfer the knowledge. So this is what we call life 2.0. Okay, for example, the currently we are in the pandemic. Okay, so virus is duplicating, is actually mutating. Okay, so they are using the life 1.0. Okay, but human being the life 2.0, we share our knowledge. The moment it happens in this country, or the most the scientists know some knowledge, they'll inform other people that, oh, these are the do's and these are the don'ts, what you can do, what you cannot do, so that we can block the spread of virus. And then we can even actually come up with vaccine, okay, which is knowledge through education and all that, and research, a vaccine to overcome this one. Okay, so basically, you look at this pandemic, basically it's a war between Life 1.0 and Life 2.0. And Life 2.1 is actually just like when we beyond our knowledge through education, we are now creating a new world in the sense that this is the digital human world with social media, and we spend more and more time there in the digital world. So now it seems like we have a physical world and also a digital world where we spend more time. So it is like Life 2.1. Okay, and Life 3.0, when he coined it as a superhuman, maybe during that time human being can actually change their organs more easily and all that, so that the moment the organs are actually not useful anymore, cannot be used and all, they can actually replace with new organs and all, and those kind of things, so that they may even actually live longer. But at the same time, Life 3.0 may be all those intelligent AI life form, in the sense that those AI robots lah, that seems that they actually also possess the same kind of intelligence as human being. But this is actually further down the road. We don't know when this will come lah. So this is his descriptions about this one. Next. Okay, now, so knowing all these changes in the Industrial Revolution 4.0, the fourth industrial revolutions, and also the challenge of AI and those kind of things, people may wonder what will happen to the jobs. Okay, now if you look at the chart here, it shows over the past 160 years in USA, you can see that the farming, those people who are involved in farming in 1850, on the left, 1815, about 50% of their population were doing farming, and slowly the number become less and less until now it's less than 5%. But now they are producing more agricultural products than 1850, no, because of the technology advancement, and they are actually producing more. Okay, but at the same time, the economy has actually boom, has become bigger. The world, the society become more complex, in the sense that more advanced services will be are provided and all that. So they need people with more white collar people. In among the white collar people, they need more knowledge workers. So you can see that this is a change of job types lah. So we can see that in future, probably we'll see the same trend, that we'll need more and more knowledge worker who are not only knows how to actually learn knowledge, but also apply knowledge, create knowledge, and learn from knowledge to solve the problems. Next slide. Okay, so sometimes people wonder why Silicon Valley is always full of innovations. Okay, if you look at the chart here, you can see that since 1970s, in the last century until now, although there have been actually ups and downs in Silicon Valley, but they always come back with new products, new products and all that, as you can see. Okay, so you can see that why is it so that they are able to come up with all this new development? Is because there they have this ecosystem of talent development with growth mindset, uh, ecosystem of talent development with growth mindset, so that they are able to actually face the challenges, even with failure, they are willing to overcome the challenges, and then actually come up with new innovations. Next slide. So the same thing. Just now I mentioned about growth mindset, the right empathy. Microsoft, the CEO Satya Nadella also mentioned he believed that innovation comes from having a deep sense of empathy, because you know what the customer wants, and so that you know how to actually come up with products with human touch. And then Apple CEO Tim Cook also urged graduates at MIT commencement in 2017. Their commencement is like our convocation. He said that graduates should actually use the minds, hands, and heart together, so that they will be able to actually provide better innovation solutions. Next slide, please. Okay, so now it comes to challenges of 21st century education. Okay, this is actually, I quote the words now from the director Andres Slider, from OECD Education Directorate. He said that a generation ago, once we actually train the students and all that, we expect that the student will be able to actually use what they have been taught, and then continue, okay, to actually work in their career. Okay, but nowadays, because of changing economic situation and new technologies and all that, the schools or the university have to prepare students for jobs that have not yet been created, technology that have not yet been invented, and problems that we don't yet know will arise. So now, in addition to knowledge, it is also important to develop the skill, the capability of the students so that they can use these skills, okay, to actually learn new knowledge, handle new problems, and solve and overcome all the new challenges. Next slide, please. Okay, so that's why you can see that nowadays the innovation, some of the new innovation we can see maybe last 20 years innovation have been replaced by newer innovations. So you can see that innovations are replaced with new innovation at faster pace. Next slide. And there's this next wave of technologies. Okay, for example, there's a project called Brain Connectome. Okay, this brain connectome is trying to see how we can map all the neurons in our mind and how we can detect that the moment our eyes see things, how the neurons, the signals is transferred inside our mind, and then how it actually is recorded and all that. So that hopefully in future they can help us to learn, how we visualize things, how we hear, how we interact and all that. And of course, there are also other technologies like big data analytics, AI, robotics, Internet of Things, blockchain, 5G, and all that, that are actually transforming the world. Next slide. So Charles Darwin once said that it is not the strongest of the species that survives, nor the most intelligent, but the one most responsive to change. Okay, so in order to survive in the modern world with all these new technologies and all that, we have to adapt ourselves. Okay, willing to adapt ourselves. That is something very important. Next slide. Okay, so there's a consortium in US called the 21st Century Learning Consortium. They come up with a framework that what kind of learning skills we need to prepare ourselves. Okay, so of course you can look at the left-hand corner, upper left corner, content knowledge and 21st century themes. So this will be the curricula that we have. Make sure it's up to date. Then on the upper right corner, we have this learning and innovation skill, 4C, critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. They think that is very important for us to develop this 4C. Now, why these 4Cs are important? Because these 4C are also skills which are transferable. Do you understand? Let's actually maybe understand it more better about transfer skill. For example, in a project team, you learn about collaborations. Okay, so the collaboration skills you learn in this project team, when you move to another project team, or you move to another assignment or another group work and all that, the skills you learn from the collaboration skill you learn in the previous project team can be applied. So that means that the more you learn about these four skills, the more or the better you'll be able to perform in future works and all that. So please remember about these four C's: critical thinking, communication, collaboration, and creativity. Sometimes, even a subject, in any subject you learn, okay, you develop this 4C, okay, and continue to enhance 4C in other subjects. Okay, and all this will help you in future to learn better in other subjects and also to apply in future your job and all that. Okay, of course, they also mentioned about importance of information, media, and technology skills, the life and career skills, and all that. But overall, if you look at all this framework, it emphasizes on high order thinking. Just like you remember the pyramid shape that I should have shown you just now, you have to go higher, higher order thinking. Okay, so that you're able to do jobs that AI machine cannot do. Okay, and at the same time, you have to go broad with multiple intelligence, meaning that you have knowledge in many areas and all, and you know how to connect them. Okay, so that you'll be able to solve a complex problem. Next slide. Okay, World Economic Forum also come up with their 21st century skill. Okay, if you look at the left-hand corner, they believe that the foundational literacies are still very important. For example, literacy, numeracy, scientific literacy, ICT literacy, financial literacy, and also cultural and civic literacy. They think these are very important. Okay. They also say that if we look at the central column, you can see competency, the 4C, they also agree that these 4Cs are very important. And then if you look at the right-hand column, they say that character building, in fact, is very important, no, for university student nowadays. Character building quality, for example, curiosity, initiative, being able to to be actually persistent in actually doing what you like to do, adaptability, leadership, and social and cultural awareness. They think this is very important to continue build out the characters. This is what the World Economic Forum thinks very important for the future generation. Next slide. So they list out the top 10 skills of 2025. As you can see, these are the skills they think that in 2025, probably by that time you are already in the workforce and all that. These are the important skills that people they think that people need to have. But basically, if you look at all these skills and all that, it actually covers the areas of problem solving, self-management, working with people, and technology use and development. Next slide. Now, just now I mentioned about multiple intelligence. Professor Howard Garner from Harvard Graduate School of Education, he already proposed this one in 1980s in the last century. He said that when we develop ourselves, don't actually just focus on something like logical, mathematical, but try to develop ourselves in other areas as well. That's why he called it multiple intelligences. For example, verbal and linguistic, spatial, the knowledge and the skill in handling different the positions and all that. For example, to a surgeon who need to actually do operation, the spatial skill is very important so that they will be very precise in their operation. Musical, bodily kinesthetics, and intrapersonal and interpersonal, very important, knowing yourself and knowing how to liaise with people, and also naturalistic, how to adapt to the nature. Next slide. And the OECD actually recently has come out with Learning Compass 2030. They believe that nowadays it's not no longer just enough if we just have knowledge or whatever. They say that we should have a compass so that the learning compass will lead us to where we want to go. Okay, so inside the compass, you have knowledge, you have values, you have skills, and you have attitude. Okay, about those things, the all-rounded things that we have to learn. Okay, but this is like your compass. It will actually lead us to where we want to go. Next slide. Uh, and in the famous historian or the famous author who wrote some of these books that are bestseller, okay, in his last book, the most recent book, 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, Professor Harari actually mentioned that there are two skills he believes are very important needed for the future. Skill number one is adaptability and keep learning. I mean, in order to survive in the future world, you need to know how to adapt, how to keep learning. Skill number two is actually to have mental balance and emotional intelligence, because this is the world that you need a lot of human touch. You need a lot of people's help, and you need to see how you can help other people. So these two skills he thinks are very important. So this is something for us to think about it. Next slide. Okay, now we come to the model where I think all of us in the universities are very familiar, the Brooms taxonomy. Okay, now if you actually look at the Brooms taxonomy, it has these three domains: cognitive domain, psychomotor domain, and affective domain. Basically, it corresponding to cognitive is actually brain, psychomotor is hand, and affective is heart. The same thing as what Apple CEO Tim Cook mentioned. Okay, if you can develop in our brain, our hand, our heart together, that is a balanced development for a university graduate. Next slide. Okay, for example, in cognitive domain, just like the pyramid I have shown you just now, there's high order thinking that from remembering, you move on to understanding, applying, analyzing, and evaluating and creating. So in all our courses, you notice all these Bloom's taxonomy level. That's why we need to actually improve ourselves further up. Next slide. And in psychomotor, also the same thing. The first time when we learn a skill. We need to imitate. Then after that, we start manipulating that. You control, have some skill, and and you can do it at a very good precision. And then finally, you'll be able to create your own pieces of artwork or own pieces of technical work and all that. This is all higher order development in terms of your psychomotor domain. Next slide. And the next one, of course, is affective domain. Okay, not just simply receiving. Okay, but also try to internalizing what you have seen, how the community works, how the charity work, or how other things, other matters that touch your heart. Okay, can be internalized so that you actually help you to develop your own personal value, how you want to help the world in future. That is actually in affective domain. Next slide. Okay. Now, a famous Monster.com, which is a online job recruitment company, they say that in every CV, they always like to look for these three main skills. Okay. Transfer skills, job related skill, adaptive skill. Now, job related skill we know is related to the job or related to what you have learned, your qualifications and all that. Transfer skill is something I mentioned to you all just now. All the soft skill where you learn and then you continue can apply this one in other jobs. For example, you have analytical mind. Okay, so if today you work for a finance company, the next day you work for a manufacturing company, with your analytical mind, you can always apply it. This is what we call transfer skill. Okay, and then of course adaptive skill, how you can adapt to various scenario so that you will able to solve the problems in various scenario. Next slide. Okay, Professor Derek Bock was once president of Harvard University for 20 over years. Okay, he actually wrote a book called Our Underachieving Colleges. Inside the book, he actually mentioned that the purposes of undergraduate education, he listed down these 8 items. Okay, then he believed that in undergraduate education, we have to learn how to communicate, we have to learn how to think, build our character, preparation for citizenship, and knowing how to live with diversity. Okay, and preparing for ourselves for a global society, because after all, this is a globalized world. Acquire broader interests, these multiple intelligences, and also finally preparing for a career. So it is good for us to take note of this part. So sometimes it's not just your exam result matter, no, it's actually your whole overall, your knowledge, your skills, your heart, everything matters to prepare you well for the career. Next slide. So in the career world, if you look at this chart, okay, uh, if you look at the x-axis is from graduation to retirement, and y-axis is the relative importance of this area. Okay, so let us look at the red line first. Formal education. Okay, now formal education, when you first graduate from the university, the qualification, the grades you receive, where you graduate from may be very important. Okay, may be very important, but slowly over the years, the importance will decrease. Why? Because people, after a few years of working, people will not just look at your qualification, they also want to know that what have you done in these first few years in the company. Okay, so you can see that the career experience, which is the dashed line, the blue dash line, you become more and more important, because that shows that whether you can perform or not. And at the same time, because you start actually maybe becoming a small manager, a small group manager, you start managing things, projects and all that. So your soft skills become more and more important. And also the networking skill, the yellow line, becoming more and more important, because later you find out that all the friends you make in your university life, in fact, becoming more important, they are from various discipline, various faculty. Who knows, they can actually help you, they can advise you when you are actually working in to solve a complex problem. And one thing is always important is the dark blue line, as you can see on top of it, dark blue line. What is this always important characters? This is what we call good character, attitude, and personality. I have actually talked to many CEOs, many big bosses, and all that. They always say that uh, if really you are asking people what kind of people you want to hire, okay, if I can ask, the two important things actually, okay, they must have good character, good attitude, that's one, and they must be willing to learn. So if they have these two, then it's good, more than enough already. Okay, of course, the others are actually additional advantages, and but they say two fundamental things are good character and attitude, and willing to learn. These are very important for career preparation. Next slide. So what you can aim to do in the university, of course, you perform academically, but with hands-on experience. Okay, now with COVID situation becoming better and all that, students start coming back to the universities and all that. Maybe those with hands-on experience one try to actually develop your skills on all this hands-on experience. And then the other thing important is develop your soft skill, participate in all clubs and societies so that you can learn other soft skills as well, and also try to see how you can contribute to the society. All these are considered the all-rounded training for you, as I mentioned to you just now. Next slide. Okay, now when we are in the university, of course we have to solve many things. Okay, so the problems, sometimes with people we say problems: accommodation, food, money, friends, homesickness, internet, handphone signals, and all that lah. I would like to suggest to you all that instead of thinking all these as problems, try to revert them as challenges. Okay, and then try to solve one by one. get some help from your senior, from your lecturers, from universities, get their help and all that, and then solve one by one, also from your family members. And then you find out that these are challenges. If that challenges are those that you can solve, okay? Because in future, when you go out and work, you still have to face all these challenges, okay? So why not that at the university level, with the help from your friends, your seniors, and others, you solve all those challenges. That as you give you some practices. Next slide. Okay, and the other thing I'd like to share with you is actually all the latest research in neuroscience suggesting that our brain, the neural network inside our brain, have this capability of called neuroplasticity. That means that as long as we are willing to learn, new connection between the neuron can still be formed. That means you can learn new things. Okay, so never too late for us to learn new things. Okay, it better that we can develop this lifelong learning habit. Okay, sometimes I would like to suggest that maybe every night before going to bed, instead of actually browsing through the internet using handphone or check your Facebook and all that, maybe before you go to sleep, you can actually spend some time to read some books. Maybe a few pages, 3 pages, 4 pages per day would do. Okay. Now, if you are really tired after reading 3 4 pages of book, maybe you can go to sleep easily, which is good also. Okay, and if you're not tired, at least from the books you learn new things. Okay, this book not necessarily your textbook, it can be some books that you like to read. Okay, so that you take this opportunity to learn new things. Okay, who knows, actually every day if you read 3 pages of book, 1 month you can finish a book with 90 pages, and every year you can finish 12 books already. That will actually help you to develop yourself further. Next slide. Now, the other one I'd like to share with you is actually from Professor Daniel Kahneman. He is actually a Nobel laureate, Nobel medalist. He said that in our brain, how our thinking works, it has two systems. System one is fast, instinctive, and emotional. For example, when you go to a restaurant, you look at something you like to eat, instinctively, you say, I would like to order this one. Because it's built inside your neural network, no, from your past experience. You know this food is good. Okay? But there's also a system two. It's slower, more deliberative, and more logical. You are willing to use the system two to try new food. Maybe you go to restaurants, you find out there's new food, new menu. Then after thinking about it, you say, I am willing to try. And after you try it and you think it's good, then you can build it into the network that this food, this new food is also good. So you are using your system two to learn new things. Okay, to improve and enhance your brain. Okay, so there's always this system one and system two. Okay, that means that as long as we are willing to learn, we can pick up new things. Next slide. Okay, now the author of Emotion Intelligence, which became popular many years ago, Professor Daniel Goleman, okay, he actually, after writing this bestseller, Emotional Intelligence, when the world start actually experiencing the wave of mobile phone, he wrote another book called Focus. He said that, in fact, during the time of internet, social media, and all that, the person who can perform well, in fact, is the person who can focus on your work, focus on your study, and not distracted by sometimes all these social media things and all that, because he believes this is the hidden driver of action. Because being for somebody who can do the inner focus, that means you focus about what you're thinking, you can improve your self-awareness. You know that what you need to improve further. And at the same time, if you actually focus on others, you develop empathy. You know how to appreciate others people's help. And if you go do outer focus, you are aware of the whole system, whole environment, and all that. So a person with focus, in fact, can perform better. Next slide. Okay. Now, why focus is important? Uh, if you look at this person who is doing the cliff climber, who is the cliff climber, why they like this kind of dangerous sport? Because when they are climbing, they have to make sure that they put in all their focus, all their full attention. Because if they are not careful, they may actually uh, fall down and then actually have the accidents and all that. So they have to be very careful, very attentive. And because they are very focused, very attentive, their mind is very calm. The mind is very calm. They like this kind of status. This is the status what we call flow. Okay, I think all of us have experienced flow before. When, like for example, imagine when you are doing something, you like it so much that time pass so fast. Time so fast. That is because you have been focusing. You have been actually putting your focus, and you have this flow state. Okay, so it so from here it shows that no person with experience of experiencing this flow state and all that will be actually happier, and will actually think that they actually live their life meaningfully. Okay, so that's why it's very important. Try not to be distracted by too many things. Every time focus on certain thing. Okay, you slowly find out you will be able to gain back yourself, have better control about things. Okay, and you feel better because you actually enjoy doing so with the flow state. Next slide. Okay, this is actually a research work by Harvard professor, two Harvard professor. They actually interview many people, about 2,250 people, uh, uh, over 250,000 times. And every time they ask actually, what you are doing now? Are you happy or not? Are you actually focusing on your current work or activity now? So they find out there's a strong correlation uh, between the happiness and the focused mind. They found out that if a person who is doing a focused job, a job with a focused mind, they will be more happier. Okay, rather than a person who is doing a thing, an activity, but is not focusing, then most likely they are not feeling that happy. So they have this conclusion: a wandering mind is an unhappy mind. So if you want to improve yourself, try to actually learn a simple tactic. Every time, focus on one thing, doing at one thing, and then you slowly notice that you become more calm. You'll be actually able to concentrate more, and you'll be able to perform well, and you feel more meaningful, and you'll be happier. Okay, so but of course that doesn't mean that you don't look at you it is forbidden for you to check your Facebook or check your YouTube. No, what they mean is actually when you are watching your TV, when you are checking your Facebook and all, just focus on that part. Okay, so everything you do, when you are eating, when you are cycling, when doing sport and all, just focus on this one, and slowly you can find out that you will be happier and happier. Okay, this is actually the findings from these two Harvard professors. Next slide. Okay, the other one I would like to share with you is actually this also a research from Professor Angela Duckworth of University of Pennsylvania. She actually mentioned that after going through all this kind of research and all that, Many talent people actually like to say that, yeah, why they cannot actually have any achievements, okay? And why some who people think that they do not have many talents, but they can achieve. So she went out and she did the research and then found out this formula for success. If you look at the formula here, the talent, for a person who have talent or any talent, okay, uh, if you put in your efforts, you can exchange this one to skills that you can apply. Okay, with talent, if you don't practice it, you won't actually acquire the skills. But with skills, if you don't put effort to actually apply the skills, you won't get the achievements. Okay, so you can see over here the efforts come up twice. Effort come up twice. That means that what matters most is still efforts. Okay, so she like to say that try to always encourage ourselves, no matter which items we may be lagging behind, whatever. As long as you can put in more efforts, okay, you'll be able to achieve as others have done that. Next slide. The other thing I'd like to share with you is actually about important versus urgent. This concept was point in a book, First Thing First by the famous consultant Stephen Covey. He actually mentioned that a lot of time in life we like to focus on solving urgent things, but in fact there are important things that we need to solve. Okay, for example, we know that doing exercise is important for health, okay, but it's not so urgent. Okay, so every day we just, when it comes to time to do sports and all that, we just say, next day lah, today lazy lah, next day lah, today I have homework to, I have to catch up lah. And next day they say, oh, I want to go and watch a movie, so I don't do it. Then slower and slowly and and later and all that, you don't do exercise and all that, you won't actually practice yourself and to have a healthy body. Okay, so these are important that we need to do regularly. The same thing in learning. Normally, people are actually very attentive or afraid of final exam because it's urgent. Why is it urgent? Because when the final exam is coming closer and closer, it become urgent issue. Okay, but in order to learn to prepare for exam, you can't prepare just the week before final exam. You have to prepare from the very beginning. Or so if very beginning time of the semester, you think this is important, you spend time in this one, then after many weeks, you'll be able to actually perform better in the exam. Okay, so this is the same thing for health, family relationship, and also financial security. Balance on focusing on urgent and important things. Okay, try to actually see that whatever you do every day, maybe 20% of the time you can spend on developing something you think are important. Okay, and then another 80% maybe to handle all those daily and urgent things and all that. Okay, but a long journey start from the first step. Next slide. So for those important things, what should we do? Because it's important, but it's not urgent. So sometimes we may not want to try to do it. No, so you can build into your habits. Because when it becomes your habit, then and it is important thing and you do it every day, long term you can see the result. Okay, because the power habit is actually you need to create a cue, a practice, like every day you wake up, naturally you go and brush your teeth. Why? Because there's a cue that when you were young, you develop this cue. Okay, then with this cue, and then you make it as a routine, and you have the reward, meaning you have a fresh teeth and all that, and then the next time you do it again, and all that. So look at something important for your life. If you say, I want to start saving some money so that I can join the student exchange or study tour, then build out a habit that every day you want to save something, or then you build into your habit every day you save 50 cents or 1 ringgit uh, before you spend for your living expenses. Then after a month, 2 months, and all that, you can see that maybe you start collecting some money. Okay, so this is how the habit of importance will help you. Okay, later when you go out and join the job market, also remember, if you can save early, invest early, for example, and all that, you may be able to actually get a more long-term financial benefits. Next slide. The other one I would like to highlight to you all is benefit of exercise. A lot of times, because we are maybe sometimes too addicted to mobile phones and all that. Nowadays, and also of course last 2 years because of pandemic lah. But now try to focus, try to put in every day some time in exercise. Because why? Regular exercise has been proven to reduce stress, reduce anxiety and feeling of depression, boost your self-esteem, improve your sleep and blood pressure because you exercise, so you feel more sleepy. You can sleep well, strengthen your heart, increase your energy level, improve your muscle strength and bones, and help reduce body fat and make you look fit and healthy. Or if you look at the right hand side, because exercise will release endorphins, dopamines, and serotonin, that all these will boost your mood and overall sense of well-being. So sometimes when you feel a bit depressed, okay, or a little bit of anxiety and all that, one way of solving this, or one way of actually reducing that stress or anxiety, is go for a walk, go and do some exercise. And when you're doing exercise, focus on the exercise, you find out that very soon your body will regulate, and the feelings of depression or anxiety will actually go away quite fast. Next slide. The other one, of course, is balanced diet lah. So make sure that in university life and all that, you have a balanced diet. That although we people may like to eat a lot of fried food, but make sure that every day we also eat, for example, fresh fruits, vegetables, and those kind of things. All those unprocessed fruits and all that. Because why? A lot of foods after cooking and all that, or a lot of processed food, they may only contain certain elements of nutrients and all that. But the natural food, it is actually original form. It has a lot of micro nutrients, okay, which your body needs them. Okay, so if you eat more of this one, that will help you to regulate your body and to keep your body healthy. Remember, to have a healthy mind, we need to also have a healthy body to help us to prepare well for our self-development and for our preparation for the future AI, future career in the AI era. Next. Okay, so the last one, two slide, I just want to share with you levels of education. Or in the university, we know that we actually learn about education for our professional work, for survival. We learn languages, we learn knowledge, we learn so that we can get a degree, so that we can get a job and all that. Don't forget that the life is not just like that. Try to actually join activities, build out your appreciation of life, develop your own habit and also your hobby. Okay, appreciate the life. Like maybe you like gardening, you like exercising, you like sport, you like actually some recreation activity. You like to actually taste coffee and tea and all that. Try to actually let yourself appreciate life itself. and more importantly, to know about life education, the meaning of life itself, how you can actually not only actually make sure that you survive, but also how you can actually help and contribute to your family members, your relative, your society, nation, and the world. So this is what we call levels of education. Try to remember that there are different levels, and we can always actually enhance ourselves to higher levels of education. Next slide. Uh, this slide I'm going to share with you is actually just like big iceberg, right? Now, former curricula that we normally learn may be like the ice above the sea level that we can see. But a lot of time without we realizing, we learn all the time, Every time we surf internet, we learn something. Every time we talk to our friends, we learn something. Every time we actually chit chat and also have a family conversation with our family member, we also learn from their experience and those kind of things. So this is a large part of what we call hidden curricula that help shape our mind, shape our thinking, and shape our characters. Okay, so no matter what is changing in the internet world, in the AI world, in the industrial revolution world, and all that, what is important is actually try to build up yourself internally, powered by ethics and morality, character building, high order thinking, multiple intelligences, soft skill competency, lifelong learning to face new challenges. So with all this one, no matter what new challenges come, you should be able to face the challenges and overcome them. Next slide. Okay, I think that's all. Thank you very much for your attention and your focus in this talk, and have a great university life. Thank you.
Thank you for the interesting presentation. All right, ladies and gentlemen, now we have come to the Q&A session. You may write your questions in the meeting chat or raise your hand. Okay, Prof, we have one question from Chi Hui. Some people think that AI will cause limited jobs to human. Is it true?
No, okay, I would say that of course AI will actually replace some of the human work, but at the same time, because of the need, you actually open up new jobs. You open new job. Just like let's say just now when we can see I have one chart that shows the over 160 years, how USA they have changed, because during that time when a lot of people are still doing farming, there were people saying that how will industrial revolution change? Will industrial revolution, because of with automation, with factory, you replace a lot of works needed and all that. Will that actually change? Then of course you can see that the number of farmers becoming less and less. But all other people, we have to learn new skills, and then they now work in the factory. They now actually do it in the automations and those kind of things. Okay, so for when AI come, okay, maybe we need more people who can do data analytics. Okay, we need more people who be able to actually provide more personalized services and product, because AI may not be good at this one. Okay, even sometimes, like for example, uh, people say we have a lot of drones now. Okay, so the drones maybe actually people use it, but we may need new profession of drones, new professions, where we need to have people who know how to repair the drones. We need actually people who know how to actually design the drone so that at night it can actually flying and then display a very nice pattern, just like for decoration and all that. So there are new jobs will be curated. So not to worry too much. As long as we have growth mindset, we are willing to learn new things. There are always actually job ready for us. Okay. Next question.
Okay. Next question is from Wong Wei Li. Is machine learning and AI the same thing?
Is what? Sorry.
Is machine learning and AI the same thing?
No, no. Okay. The machine learning and AI, they are not exactly the same thing and all that. So you can actually go to the internet, you can find out that even AI itself, it have actually many branches. Okay, it has many branches. And machine learning, some of them may be just through a simple laws, simple rules and all that. It can do some basic learning and then still be able to have some solution. Okay, but it may not have reached the level of intelligence. Okay, so there are some differences. Okay, but one thing that we like to highlight over here is that, as you can see, as we move to this kind of a future world, okay, when people are talking more about data analytics, people talk about AI, people talk about machine learnings and all that. One thing that is very critical is actually you still need people, okay, at this moment to design or to program, to decide how to actually better use all these tools, or all these tools, because we still have not come to the state of general artificial intelligence that it can actually do all these things and all that. Okay, so we still need uh, human capital lah. Okay, so as long as we are willing to improve our higher order thinking and all that with growth mindset, we should be able to face all these challenges. Okay, next question.
Okay. Sir F, hi. I can raise my. Okay, you can unmute yourself, Sir F, if you want to ask question to Prof. U.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yeah, I have a question. You mentioned earlier about the United States, the farming, and then there were a lot of farmers back then than there were now, but now they are producing more food, even though now they are less farmer. So my question is, does it mean that now and then to the future, people, I mean, like less people will be expected to work more? What I mean by that is in some sectors, people are expected to work more, even though there are less people, which means that we have more workload. So in that situation, what would your advice be in terms of, for example, coping and yeah, in general? Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Now, okay, maybe I share with you some examples lah. For example, sometimes some predictions, okay, about the trends of AI. Some they say that maybe in future nurses we still need that nurse. No, we still need a lot of nurses, because why? First of all, maybe AI robots is not as delicate and also as actually caring lah, as the human nurse and all that. Okay, and nurses in future may need to know some data analysts to know the patient information more and all that, and you need to have more skillful nurses rather than nowadays. In future, nurses will have to know how to utilize all these devices and all that. So job scope will change. Job scope will change. Like for example, doctor, people are saying that sometimes the interpolations of the medical images and all that, AI can do better. For example, okay. So in future, maybe instead of doctor interpreting the medical images, maybe more doctors will actually will spend more time in explaining to the patients, okay, the implications of the results of the imaging, what are the options, what are the treatments suitable and all that. It's a more personalized kind of services. So scope of the work may change. So in this case, I will say that not to afraid too much. Okay, that's why during the university time, don't just actually focus on learning knowledges. but develop your soft skill as well, and read a lot, not just within a club, but beyond, so that you are more all-rounded and all that. Then you should be able to face all the challenges. Next question.
Okay, next question is from Muhyiddin Akbula. How can underdeveloped countries benefit from AI?
Okay. Now, for underdeveloped countries, I think one thing is actually, as you know, just now I mentioned that Life 2.0, education is still very important. Okay, still need to actually let more and more people have better educations so that they can raise the level of the work they can handle. Okay, and of course, AI may help. AI will come in, help automate many things. Okay, but after you can let the AI do all those automation things and do all these things, you still need to have people higher up to analyze, to decide, and to plan for the future developments and all that. So you still need to actually train a lot of people with good educations. Okay,
Okay,
next
Prof.
question.
Okay, the next question is from Ahmad Al Haiki. What is your take on which is better, specialist or generalist in the future workspace?
Okay, now I would say that in future this will coexist. Okay, but the generalist would not be just generalist, you know. The generalist should be or cross disciplinary, and they know how to connect everyone. The generalist cannot be just say, I know here a little bit, here a little bit, here a little bit, I just do like that one. That is not good enough. When we say generalists, they must be themselves a specialist in connecting all the different discipline together so that they will be able to come up with solutions to complex problems. Okay, whereas for specialists, while they may be very specialized in certain area, they must have the broader scope of what is happening elsewhere, because things change so fast. So who knows that something happening in another field may affect their field in future. Okay, so it is very important for them to be both specialized and broad in that sense. Thank you.
Okay, Prof. The next question is from Xiao Wen Hao. Who will benefit more in the AI era? Is it software engineers or electrical electronic engineers?
Okay, I would say that you see all the applications we use, even all the programs we use and all that, it cannot work without hardware. It cannot work without hardware. Okay, so when we know about you use handphone, you look at all the apps and all that, but you still need a lot of engineers, electronics engineer, electrical engineers to help in the design of the chip, in the design of circuit, in the design of the blocks of the connection, processing of signals, and those kind of things. Okay, so I would still think that both hardware and software are critical, still very much needed. That's why at MIT, their department, they call it Department of Electrical Engineering and Computer Science. They still believe that the two are equally important. Okay, but whether to choose software engineering or electronic engineering and all that, it depends your own interest. It depends your own interest. But I would think that both fields we still need to have a lot of people. So try to encourage more of your juniors to actually learn in these areas. Very important field.
Okay, Prof. The next question is from Muhammad Adamu. Can the challenges of AI, such as uncertainty, future, hackable human, etc., call for a point of concern, or we can just ignore those challenges? and focus on importance since AI is the future?
I think it's very important for us to realize that everything has pro and cons. Okay, everything has pro and cons. Okay, just like if we have actually a handphone, or we can use this one for communication, for learning, for many things. But people can also use this one to actually do crimes and all that. So I would say that for AI, the same thing. Okay, we have to be aware of the potential harm of AI. Okay, and also have to always look at it. For example, the algorithm and the thing that it actually self-develop and self evaluate and all that. Okay, for example, we don't want to have actually an AI algorithm because of the initial choice, and slowly it leads people, okay, to do harm to the nature, for example. Okay, you never know, because who knows that actually the the algorithm which is not so perfect and all that, and then the initial feedback and all that, then the AI machine thought that this is the trend, and then keep on actually digging out and send more, and then the people who actually do not, for example, who do not like nature and all that, will continue to receive more and more news about this and all that, and then they become more extreme, and more people get involved and then influenced by these AI algorithms and all that. So we have to be careful about that one as well. Okay. So one way that we'd like to suggest is this. Nowadays, when we go to uh, uh, Facebook, and we go to actually uh, uh, Instagram, or internet and all that, try to get the information for all sources of news. Okay, also so that you can, since we have the ability to decide what is right and what is wrong, and so with this exposure,
كبسة صارت هسه مع جماعة الهجرة كلهم أفغان.
Uh, Excuse me, Oday Amir.
uh, with this exposure to all this one, you can actually be more I would say that you'll be able to actually decide better, and we know the overall scope and all that. Okay, so it is very important to overcome this one. Don't limit yourself to single channel of information source. Go for more, and even some of them is opposite channels, but analyze it yourself and decide yourself. Then you'll be able to know better. For example, in the old days, when we actually read newspaper, remember, when we read newspaper, when we read when we scan and all that, all kinds of headline will come into our mind, right? So we are exposed to all kinds of happening, either bad one or good one or whatever. Okay, and then we'll know what is right information and those kind of things. But nowadays, because of this algorithm and all, sometimes if you like for example, if you like this kind of music, then every time they will just introduce this kind of music to you, all right? So sooner or later, you only listen to this kind of music, and you don't have the chance to expose yourself to other types of music, for example. Okay, then that lost the diversity. Remember just now Professor Darren Bock mentioned diversity is very important, so that when you have this diversity kind of experience, you can be more creative, you can be more tolerant, and you can develop your cultural intelligence, especially in this globalized world. Okay, next
Okay,
question.
all right, Prof. This is the last question from Susama Bakshi. In the next 10 years, what will be a hot topic?
I would say, of course, in the next 10 years, there will be a lot of hot topics. All these like Internet of Things, blockchain, even the brain, neuroscience, metaverse, all these will come it will continue to be a hot topic, including even fusion energy fusion will be important. Okay, maybe next 10 years there will be more practical. Okay, and then a lot of new innovation will continue to come out and all that lah. So I'll say that it's never ending. Okay, so and it's also difficult to actually judge, but for those who are interested in what is coming out, they can go to search in the internet, go look for Gartner, no, this Gartner, 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 uh, 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 um, curve of innovation or chart of innovation. Gartner is actually a research company. Every year they come out with the predictions of emerging technologies. Okay, they'll tell you that which one is coming out, which one is going down, the popularity and all that. Go and search for this one. Then you have a better idea. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Prof. Uh, Ladies and gentlemen, finally, we have come to the end of the presentation. We would like to say thank you to the presenter, Prof. Yu Hong Tat, for the interesting presentation, and also to all of the audiences for your active participation. Hopefully, the presentation will be knowledgeable for everyone. Before we end today's session, let us take a group photo. Is everybody ready? Okay, in the count of three, I will take the photo. Okay, 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3, smile. Okay, that is all. Ladies and gentlemen, you are welcome to scan the QR code on the screen or access to the feedback form through the link posted in the meeting chat for the e-certification. Other than that, if you are interested to learn more regarding IEEE UKM student branch and be part of it, please feel free to scan the QR code on the right. Feel free to WhatsApp us or approach us on our social media platform to inquire the benefit of joining our student branch. Thank you for your attention. We hope to see you again in our next event. Dear participants, we will end this meeting in 2 minutes. Please be aware.